Gentlemen, welcome to the channel. It is I, Ken from Tall Garage. Today is kind of a simple video. We're going to talk about cam sync on your Gen 3 LS with your stock ECU. Do you need cam sync to run? No, you don't, apparently. I read in this book that the ECU will run full sequential fuel and spark without the cam signal. And I mentioned this in Slapping Mechanics, and no one at first seemed to believe me. But luckily, someone had a engine sim all set up, and they're able to test my theory. Now, before we watch that, I just want to explain a little bit more about what I'm trying to say here, right? So on the LS, you have two main sensors. You have the crank position sensor, and you have your cam position sensor, and usually them two are required to run full sequential fuel and spark. If you have an aftermarket ECU, you'll need both of them to do that, right? The LS ECU, however, has a built-in redundancy. So if you lose the cam position signal, it will still manage to run, which is good for us in our swaps. So, like I said, I read in that book that you didn't need it. It would default or error out when it lost the cam signal, and it would still continue to run, although it might take a bit longer to start. So we're going to go ahead and look at the engine sim here, and you'll see what the findings were. So enjoy.
Ignore the mess, but PO1, engine sim, breakout box, HB tuners, this, okay? Ignore the tune-up because it's for a scaled tune-up. But see how I've got a camshaft position sensor circuit code? It's because it's off the sim. So RPM as down as I can go. Again, cam sensor unplugged, so if you see the cam sensor flashing, ignore it because I already showed you the code. But it's actually doing 8 cylinders in sequence. Okay, so just to show you, everything's still on the bench. As I said, this is the cam sensor wire, still disconnected. Engine sim still feeding crank signal to this. And I'll even show you, I'll read the codes right now while it's running. Read DTCs. You can see the camshaft sensor code right there. It's also not happy, you know, it doesn't have fuel level sensor or whatever, because again, it's on my bench. But 296 RPM. I'd like to show you, it's got RPM input. Let me make sure I'm grabbing the right one. RPM input, okay? Like all the RPM, right? So I'm going to take it right back down. The reason I have it down at like as low as it will go, which is like low 300s, high 200s, is because you can actually, it may be hard for this video to pick it up, but LS, you know, it's 1826543. So, and you can actually watch the LEDs at that low of RPM fire in sequence. And again, you're seeing the cam sensor input or output. That is an output LED, but it's disconnected. As I showed you the DTC, it's errored out currently. It's not seeing it because it's disconnected. But yeah, it's working. So if you do what you sent me that photo of dividing the GM LS 8 cylinders by the 4 cylinders of that, I would change the individual cylinder volume to 0.625, which was me taking a 2.5 liter divided by 4. I believe the iron takes a 2.5. I could be wrong. But anyway, yeah, liter size divided by 4, that would get that correct. So that way it can calculate air to fuel ratio correctly. So that way tuning's not a nightmare. But yeah, I think it's going to work. I can't test with this sim with even like an oscilloscope or anything if we're on the right side of the crank, right? But it's definitely worth trying.
So anyway, yeah, real quick, short and sweet video. So for you guys doing your ECU conversions, taking the LS stuff and putting on small blocks and whatever other Mopar or whatever engine you want, right? You don't need the cam signal right off the bat. You just get your crank trigger on there and you'll be able to get it to run. So I thought that was pretty neat. So if you enjoyed this video, give a like, subscribe, and go check out the Facebook group where all this stuff gets talked about more often. So yeah, check you later.